Hello and welcome to the Living Legacy series from Of the I Sing American Heritage Through Song. I am Audrey Johnson, classically trained opera singer and founder of the I Sing, and I am so grateful to have you all here today for another exciting episode of this series. The mission of the I Sing is to bring American heritage to life through music, and a cornerstone of this mission is to support and champion contemporary American composers because they are the living legacy of our nation's musical heritage and culture. I especially love featuring their musical settings of American poetry, because this brings our national treasury of literature to the forefront as well. I believe deeply in our nation's music and poetry, and I am honored to be an ambassador of this music, with the vision of bringing people together through the power of song. This series gives us all the chance to get to know these wonderful and important American artists, and I feature a different composer and one of his or her songs in each month's episode. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome composer Daniel Knaggs to the program. Daniel is currently a faculty member in music, composition, and theory at the College of Worcester in Ohio. And he and I met there over a year ago while I was there taking part in a performance with the Worcester Symphony Orchestra. We've been talking about doing this interview ever since, and it is very exciting to have this finally come to fruition today. Daniel completed his doctorate in music composition at the Shepherd School of Music at Rice University and his master's degree in music composition at Bowling Green State University. He graduated from the University of Michigan with bachelor degrees in voice performance and in Spanish. Daniel is now a composer whose music is commissioned and performed across the globe. In 2019 alone, his music was performed in Japan, Australia, Poland, Israel, Scotland, England, Germany, Italy, and throughout the United States. After living in Mexico, Nicaragua, and France, and having studied 6 foreign languages, he continues to explore the interplay between music and linguistics while maintaining an international outlook in his work. He loves evoking vivid imagery in his music, as well as focusing his efforts into a wide range of compositional projects. His works are published by multiple major music publishers, including Peters, Hall Leonard, and E.C. Schirmer. Daniel's music has received a number of awards in the USA and abroad, including the Noel Manet Prize for his piece To Everything a Season at the 2019 Markt Oberdorf International Chamber Choir Competition in Germany. And his compositions have been awarded first prizes at competitions in Italy, Poland, and the US. Increasingly sought after as a composer, Daniel has been recently commissioned by choirs and ensembles all over the world, with upcoming commissions including a major new work for the Muzyka Vera Festival in Torun, Poland, and a new work for the Worcester Symphony Orchestra. Performers of his work include professional ensembles and choirs in Mexico, Japan, Canada, Brazil, Poland, Australia, the United States, and throughout the United Kingdom. Please join me now in welcoming composer Daniel Knaggs. Daniel, welcome. It's an honor to have you joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I've been so looking forward to this ever since you and I met over a year ago on Worcester College campus. And in looking at your biography and all of your accolades, it is such a testament to your hard work and talent. Could you tell us where it all began for you?
First of all, thank you. And yeah, I think the beginning of my love for music, you could say, was just about as early back as I can remember. So singing at home, singing in the home, even if it's just like Disney songs or
Mhm.
children's songs and things like that. We even discovered at one point some cassette tapes of, I think, my sister and I singing. One, I must have been 3 or 4 or something, and she was a couple years older. So some pretty amazing, memories for me that are very special. But I think it was, childhood, and my dad played the guitar and sang, before we went to bed and things like that. But then I was able to mess around on my grandparents' upright piano and really fell in love with playing piano and making up my own songs and so forth. So that's kind of where that all began long, long ago. So
That's beautiful. And Daniel, can I ask just to clarify, were your parents professional musicians?
not even close. So, and I don't think they would mind me saying that. No, not even close. But my dad was musical in many ways,
Mhm.
with guitar, and he just loved music so much, loved singing. So
That is beautiful. And I hope, that's such a wonderful message to all of us. Honestly, I was kind of hoping that that would be your answer because to me, what that shows is, it doesn't matter that a person has has reached this professional level, whatever that might even mean, that there is still so much power in being able to share music with young people, and especially within that home environment, that safe home environment where it's fun and there's no pressure, and it's just you can really experience that love of music fully. So that's a beautiful story, and I'm going to make sure that my husband hears that because he plays guitar too. He's not a professional musician, he's a philosophy professor, and I'm always saying, oh, we need to play for our little boy because it's so important for him, I think, to hear both of us make music and to have that association. So thank you for sharing that. And hopefully for those watching, that you have little ones in your lives, don't be afraid to play it and to share it and to make it a part of the child's life because you never know what could happen. So thank you. That's wonderful. And in going through your bio and reading all of the, not only the amazing accolades and what you've been able to accomplish, but a couple of things from your background, things that you're passionate about that have really played a profound role for you artistically. One of them was your love of and proficiency in languages, and I'd love to know, how that kind of started for you and how that continues to inform your artistry and your compositions today.
Okay, well, it's a pretty big question, but I think that that's something also that started very early on for me is a love for kind of a curiosity about other cultures, but also just amazed that, here I grew up speaking my own native language, but I hear people able to communicate with each other, obviously very proficiently in
Mhm.
other tongues, and so I was really drawn to that. I think West Side Story, for example, I know we watched that a lot, and I just thought, oh man, the Spanish just sounds so awesome, even just a little word here and there. And I just thought, man, this would open up a whole, a door to a whole new world if I could, learn a little bit of Spanish. So I really got into it in high school. 4 years of Spanish in high school was my favorite subject by far,
Yeah.
and ended up knowing that I needed to major in both Spanish and music at the same time. So that's what I did at the University of Michigan as a dual degree, where I could pretty much, and it took me 5.5 years, okay, but I wanted to fully dedicate myself
Oh.
to both of those loves. So it's kind of started with Spanish, but that was never enough. I was so curious about all these other languages. And also in high school, I took private French lessons actually.
Wow.
And then I ended up, being required to take French, Italian, and German to a
Mhm.
certain extent for the voice degree at Michigan. And as a Spanish major, I was able to also take a kind of accelerated track of Portuguese. So I did Brazilian Portuguese for a semester too, which really, again, really opened doors for when I was
Mhm.
going for musical purposes to Brazil. And then Polish has been the most recent over the last 10 years, kind of no official classes, a little bit of like online coursework and
Mhm.
different things. And I've been going to Poland quite a bit and corresponding quite a bit in Polish. So I have some stuff coming up this year, which was postponed last year, but
Mhm.
I'm taking probably my fifth trip to Poland in October. Knock on wood, if everything is okay,
Yeah,
health wise and
sure.
security wise. So
Wow. Daniel, that's incredible. And I love that you weren't afraid to commit yourself totally. Like you were saying, you were a double major at the University of Michigan. For those that don't know, I mean, that is an amazing school, across the board in all areas, but certainly it's known within the music world as just a top caliber training program. So the fact that you had the courage to say no, these are two things that I am passionate about and I am not compromising on either one of them. I'm going forward with everything that I have for both. That is just beautiful. And I feel the way that you were able to approach it in that way with that curiosity and that love has really been largely, it seems like, one of the reasons that you have been so successful in the ways that you have been. So talk to us about, so you were saying, you were there as an undergrad, as a voice major, which,
mhm.
now is not, now you are at Worcester as a professor of composition and theory. So, how did that? What was the shift there, and maybe how have the things that you learned as a voice major certainly continued to inform you as a composer?
It's a great set of questions, I would think. So, but it's exciting for me because I knew that I wanted to study composition ultimately, but I had a very good mentor when I was in high school, who was my voice teacher, but also taught me a lot about music theory, taught me a lot about life, taught me a little bit of Chinese. Okay, so there's some of the
Wow.
love of languages being played out there. But she recommended strongly as my voice teacher, it was going to be one of three things that I was going to apply for my to studying music. So it was either going to be piano, which was probably no chance, about a snowball's chance in HE double hockey sticks that I would get in for piano. Okay. So, but I still loved it and mostly played by ear. Or composition, which I had really no experience transcribing or doing anything officially. So that was not a great idea. But the recommendation was that since I had advanced enough like in the musicals and singing, that if I could get my foot in the door that way,
Mhm.
then that would be the best opportunity. So I was able to get my foot in the door at Michigan and benefit from the program and just an environment where there was a lot of musical knowledge, a lot of musical giftedness, and learning a lot in that way. And it really wasn't until my senior year that I was able to transition to, it was my fifth senior year, by the way, that I was able to transition to composition. So I didn't change my degree, so to speak, but I knew, okay, in 4 months from now, I'm going to apply for a master's in composition if anyone will take me. And ended up just kind of cranking out. And this is some of the music, actually. The one that you're talking about today was one of those early pieces in my
Wow.
first kind of like spurt of I need to start writing something if I'm going to be a composer, right? So
Mhm.
ended up getting that going, and then I did get to go into my master program of choice at Bowling Green State uh, immediately after that, and so it was kind of like making up for lost time, catching up a bit. But the point was that I got my foot in the door, and I was able to learn, get the languages going, all of the theory, and a lot of the core lessons out of the way, and then able to just kind of like take off into the direction that I felt like I was meant to be, right?
Wow, that's beautiful. And I think even just how systematic you were from that point. And by the way, what a door. Talking about getting your foot in the door. I mean, wow. What a amazing mentor that guided you so strategically and really played to your strengths.
Mm.
I mean, really that honest assessment of where you were, where you wanted to be, how could we get there, and the willingness that you were to make that kind of time investment and that kind of commitment, and then to say, okay, in 4 months, I mean, you were ready, you were aware, of that trajectory and where you were in relationship to where you wanted to go and what you needed to do. That is so amazing. And I know that that has served you so well in, making it as a composer in this day and age. So a little bit later on, at the end, when we kind of wrap up and talk about, advice for young composers and things of that nature, I would love to hear more about that. But for right now, Daniel, that is what an incredible story already. This is just amazing. And so, talking about, like you were saying, the piece that we'll be hearing today, which is To My Wife, which is part of a song cycle that you composed to poems by Alexander Posey, who I did not know about before embarking on learning this piece. And what an amazing figure he was in our history as well. Could you talk a little bit more specifically about, the composition for that set? I know it was something that you collaborated with. Is that correct? With a specific singer?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's the whole reason this came about. Actually, was um, there is a wonderful soprano named Kristen Kunkel. So actually, it's Dr. Kristen Kunkel. But this was when I had these major dreams of becoming an opera singer and so forth as a lowly high school student. I went to this Toledo opera camp, or like Toledo. There was some kind of like talk at the University of Toledo, which is near where I lived when I was in high school. And it was a master class with someone who had coached Metropolitan Opera singers. I was just like, wow, I have to see this. I have to see this. One of the singers ended up being Kirsten Kunkel, right? And she sang Mimi's aria it was See Me Callan Mimi from La Boheme. And I was just like starstruck. I was like, okay, she's my hero. I can't believe she can do this, and I was amazed by that. Then, I kind of shelved that, and I didn't see Kirsten for like quite a while, right? So ended up, Kirsten did her doctorate at Michigan while I was like finishing up my undergrad. And so we kind of met once again. I was like, man, you were my hero. And I haven't seen you all this time, you know?
Mhm.
And she ended up asking a number of different composers, would you write a song to the poetry, setting the poetry of Alexander Posey? And it turns out that she is a descendant of his, right? So had this interest um, in his poetry and kind of making it known and so forth. So everybody that was asked pretty much, I think, said yes. And I had a little issue with like settling with one poem, so I chose six. Sometimes I over, but it's like instead of a period, it's like an exclamation point. Like I got to do this. I really wanted to try all these different things with the different pieces. So that's where this came about. It was something I got really excited about. Hurried up, and I think I wrote them all in a pretty short amount of time. And in terms of sophistication and maturity as a composer, are they like super mature? No, no. But like they're very special to me, right? And they're some of my first statements as a composer, working out ideas in the piano and in voice, and having those two interact, so that it's almost like almost like arias, where you create an environment and different environment for each of these six poems, right? And trying to not get in the way of what the poet is saying, but trying to kind of like enhance our experience, put us in a place where we can really receive the poetry being shared. So I grouped together six poems that I like, that I thought all fit into, I call this songs of life and time. So I often get kind of interested in the idea of the passage of time and the things that are meaningful in life, because music is such a human art that I really like to highlight some of these aspects. There were all kinds of poems. He has many poems, right? But these were ones that I thought I could string together in a cohesive cycle or set that all point to this same kind of trajectory of like reflecting on life, celebrating life. But and then the piece that you're doing too, not always celebrating life, but also acknowledging with a vulnerability, taking time to take stock, like, okay, I was wrong about this. I'm wrong, and I need to ask your forgiveness, kind of a thing. This is a beautiful human insight, right, into the human experience. Music is so conducive to that, right, in painting that picture. So
Absolutely. And helping to bring those things to the forefront and clarify them for us in new ways and in new levels. Absolutely. And I think all of you, now that you've heard that explanation, when you hear this piece, I think that you'll be able to really take stock and appreciate all the more the words of this text. For me, that is just, that's one of the big things about this series, is to show the way that music can enhance our understanding, can deepen our understanding of a poem, and how, with the music to attach to those words, then we've got this recurring theme that comes in and out so much more frequently than if we were just to hear words alone. So thank you so much for letting me share this piece, and for your beautiful explanation of your process with that.
thank
And
you.
what a story! That's just so incredible. And actually, would you mind, Daniel, speaking the words of the poem for us, orating it for us before I would sing it?
Sure. So the poem is To My Wife. I've seen the beauty of the rose, I've heard the music of the bird, and given voice to my delight. I've sought the shapes that come in dreams, I've reached my hands in eager quest to fold them empty to my breast. While you, the whole of all I've sought, the love, the beauty, and the dreams, have stood through weal and woe, true at my side, silent at my neglect.
Wow.
So sort of a serious, the most serious of all the poems in the set here of this cycle.
Yes, but what a beautiful way that Posey has set this. I mean, to me, it really it set off kind of a chain reaction of introspection and,
Mm-hmm.
realizing the need for further gratitude in my life in the right places. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't we don't always derive the benefit in life from the things that are all rosy and happy. And this is a lesson. This is a teaching moment, this piece. And so thank you for sharing those beautiful words. And I would love to now share the gorgeous song with all of you.
I've seen the beauty of the rose. I've heard the music of the bird, and given voice to my delight. I've sought the shapes that come in dreams. I've reached my hands in eager quest to fold them empty to my breast. When you, the whole of all I've sought, the love, the beauty, and the dreams have stood through weal and woe, true at my side. Silent at my neglect.
Daniel, what a poignant setting of such a profound poem. Thank you for letting me share that today.
Thank you for singing it so beautifully.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, and your music is just so easy to sing. You have such, I'm sure that it's because of your vocal background that you have to such a great extent. But it's so easy to sing. You have mapped so well onto just the natural ebb and flow of how one would speak this poem as we heard you speak it. And also you have just a real innate sense of, the best way to shape those phrases for the singer, for the vowel choices and where you choose to set them musically. You're just so gifted in that area. So it really is a joy to sing that. Were those things part of your process actively, things that you were actively aware of while you were setting this text?
Yeah, I think I try to be very conscious about the golden. For me, it's like a golden rule. Would I want to have to sing, a high C on the vowel E vowel or something? Like, no,
Yeah.
I would not. Okay, but some of it, I think I don't think so specifically about it anymore.
Mhm.
It's almost like, you get into flow and it
Yeah.
becomes second nature. So I'm not probably going to be falling into the same mistakes that I would have when I like wrote this, right? So I had to concentrate a little bit more, specifically like, hey, let's do this, let's do that, be careful. But I don't think I have to. I have other problems that I could fall into compositionally that I need to, be very intentional about, right?
Mhm. Sure. And I love, and yes, intentional seems like one of the kind of recurring themes of today, and what really seems to set you apart, honestly, from so many, not only composers today, but just musicians and artists in general. You seem to, to really have this focused sense of what to do and of how to promote your work. So early examples of this being, your enterprising goal when you were doing your doctoral compositional degree recital, that you decided to do a funding project to create this CD, and this also involved over 50 professional musicians. Could you talk to us a little bit about the formation of this idea and how you decided to implement and structure the strategy that allowed you to reach that?
Yes, that was another example of usually I don't like to aim small and achieve whatever. I tend to go for the more impossible, unreasonable things. I don't know why. And my life would be a lot easier probably if I would just settle for, hey, let's just do this. But I came to the point where I had to do my doctoral recital, and a lot of the music that I happened to be writing at the time were choral pieces, right? And I also had like, I really wanted to get some brass writing out there, so I did like a brass symphony, I did an organ symphony, and then I did like a number of different choral pieces, and the pieces that I would have loved to program on the recital, they were going to be like heavy duty. You need very dedicated musicians and so forth. So I ended up kind of thinking about like, how am I going to pull this off? And actually spoke with my dad quite a bit about it. And I almost like backed off because it seemed unreasonable. It was going to be at the time, it was a lot. It's still a lot, but it was something like $7,500 that I needed to raise just for my academic recital, right? And no one ever does that. And comments were made. I won't say by whom, but like, you don't need to do it this huge extravaganza, just like have a recital, have a piano piece, have a whatever, and just like it's gonna be 40 minutes or whatever. But it's like, I can't. This has to be like this, and so my dad and I were talking about how am I going to do this? And again, my dad's not a professional musician, but his whole thing was like make it a win-win situation so that it's not only these people are helping you, but you are helping them. So
Mhm.
pay a generous stipend to these professional singers, to the conductor, and all of this, and like everybody kind of walks away with something, and here musicians are supporting each other, everyone's getting exposure, and then you kind of help them make a living and so forth, right? So thing is, I was so afraid that if I had to come up with even half of that money on my own, I would be bankrupt, or it just would. I had to. That would be horrible. That was my more than my savings for sure. Okay, so it was scary, but I took the chance, and people were so generous. And in 30 days or whatever, that more than that was raised. I was able to come up with a CD, and everything worked out really well. And that was a good learning experience for me too. It's my first CD,
Mhm.
and the first time that I'd ever kind of like organized something like that. And now it's a lot of work, but it's a skill set that comes in handy from
Mhm.
time to time, not only for myself, but when other people are thinking of doing something similar, and I can share like, don't do this, or do this. This is what you want. I like to be able to offer that concrete experience.
Right. Absolutely. That's fantastic. And gosh, what a wonderful mentor you have in your father. That's so beautiful, that the way that he encouraged you and the way that he was kept as a solution oriented person guiding you. And talking about the win-win situation, that just reminds me of the you know, the incomparable Zig Ziglar. And what he always said was, you can have everything in life you want if you will just have enough, help enough other people get what they want. And that's exactly what you did. And that's exactly what happened. You had the success and they had that success as well in all of the ways that you described. So that is such a beautiful testament to the way that I think all of us, you know, definitely as artists, but I think anybody can really learn from that situation. That is what an amazing story, and it's only continued from there, right? Not only with CDs, as I know that was just one of several that you have put out, but you've also increased your entrepreneurial skills in other areas. You know, being featured internationally in music publications, winning competitions, being published with these wonderful music publishers. So, could you tell me, is there been a way that you have systematically structured getting your music out there in those veins as well?
Yes. Okay. So let's full disclosure here. I don't think there need to be any secrets, but and this is, I'm not being paid to say this, but I found a couple of resources that I found to be very helpful for me. And I try to share them from time to time with my own students and other people like who are asking. You know, there's a real, in the 21st century in particular, there's a real kind of open-ended clean slate for how does somebody carve out their own career path.
Mhm.
And there isn't really the, even, I mean, in a academic position, there's really still no cookie cutter, this is the way it's got to be done. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity out there, but things have changed quite a bit from what they used to be. So it used to be, for a composer, for example, you pretty much just get a academic position, stay there, and hopefully get some commissions on the side and so forth. Now, academic positions are very, very, I was going to say that there are less of them probably than they're kind of like diminishing in quantity, right? So there aren't as many. It's increasing in competitiveness as well. So it's going to be very difficult to find a position for the modern musician who's thinking, well, academia is going to go into, we're not so sure exactly what the future of academia is even going to look like, right? So it's especially important, I think, in the beginning. And what do I know, right? But I think it's important to not put our eggs, too many eggs in just one basket, you know. So for all of the aspiring musicians out there, I would say definitely take seriously the all the skills that you are. You know, if it's languages, I have some students who are interested in languages. I have some who are not interested in languages. That's okay. If you have a natural interest in it, you're going to probably have that motivation automatically, right, to pursue it. It'll open doors, right? But then if you have an instrument or multiple instruments that you play, take that seriously too. If you're a singer, take it seriously. You know, if you want to get into conducting, take it seriously. If you're into, you know, things like graphic design, or you have like a lot of the modern, I would say, 21st century musician career paths look like a conglomeration or a collection of many different streams of income, many different types of activities that kind of pool together. Like maybe you're a director at a church or something, a music director, and on the side you're doing this, you're freelancing, you're doing performances, you play for the community orchestra. I mean, like, and so forth and so forth. Lots of different opportunities. So I think that's important. But for me, the sources that I was alluding to were actually, there were two books. There was one called Beyond Talent and one called The Savvy Musician. And they're very helpful because they give concrete examples. They give a little, like little vignettes here and there of what different musicians have done in order to get their music out there. And again, not only composers, but also singers, performers, you know, that how do you get your music out there? And they gave examples of basically, it's really encouraging because it says like for like every 20, 30 opportunities that you apply to, you may get one. And if you don't hate yourself because like 10,000 people, okay, not that many, but you know, many people, when there are 500 people competing for one little thing, I mean, this is rough. All right. The odds are pretty much against you and you shouldn't take that personally. But I started to, even I'm very uncomfortable with this, but you know, I would reach out to people, share my music with them. But I really wanted to make sure that I was reaching out to people who or ensembles that I really, really respected so that I could have the integrity to really praise what I see. A lot of the groups that I am involved with now, I have no problem praising them because I love what they're doing. I love their performing, and really, really, I feel very blessed in many respects and spoiled, right, to be working from time to time with groups that I have so much respect for, and that if I have free time, I want to be listening to their recordings and I want to be listening to their performances. I love it so much. So I would say, keep developing. You become a follower. If you're a composer, especially, become a follower of performers, become a follower of different ensembles, and don't spend too much energy just looking for opportunities just so you can have opportunities. I mean, you can do that. Again, there's a number of ways to do things, but you might find that will fizzle out, and that you won't want to follow through as much just looking for, well, there's a paid opportunity here, but I'm not that interested in it. Like, it's okay to turn some things down, but to really like invest in, again, ensembles that you really believe in. Sometimes these relationships take 5 years, 7 years, 9 years to come to fruition. I have a number of examples where I established contact with an ensemble, and it was maybe 4 years later or 5 years later that it came of, like something came of it. So that is not everybody's favorite. Okay, it's like planting something that's going to take a really, really long time to grow. We like the fast things like lettuce, plant the seeds and then boom, it'll be up in like 2 weeks or something. Like, we like that. Okay, but the truth is that these things that take time are usually really worth it, right? So
Wow. Daniel, I have learned so much from you today. This has just been, I mean, gosh, talk about doing other things. I hope you've considered being a motivational speaker because, wow, you are just so inspiring. And I have every confidence in the world that it's not just me because I'm a musician and an artist. I think that your message could be so easily applied to anyone. I mean, just the idea of, a long-term investment being something that's worth it, right? And that, yeah, we like a quick win and we have to have some of those, right, to keep that momentum going. But the ones that are really going to matter and really be special are going to take that time investment. And gosh, those are lessons that we can all learn from and all benefit from. So I just cannot thank you enough for the very, very great gift of your time today. This has just been an incredible experience for me. I know for those of you watching that if this doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will, because man, talk about an amazing story. And this is only the beginning. Your career is still so much before you, and we just cannot wait to see what you will do next. So
thank you.
thank you so, so sincerely for your time today. And for those of you watching, this has been the Living Legacy series. We sure hope you've enjoyed it.